All right, so the last day of review, this is day 5. We should finish numbers 45 to 55, and that's going to be it for your final exam. So you should have every single problem you need to study, review, and stuff so that you can get ready for the final. So number 45 says evaluate the infinite geometric series. So I do want to emphasize again, kind of like what we did last time, right? The word infinite is there, which means that you need to use this formula in order to analyze it or evaluate it, okay? But remember that there is a requirement that the absolute value of r has to be less than 1. If the absolute value of r is less than 1, then I can use the formula to solve. If it's not, then I just put no sum. So according to my information here, my a sub 1 is 3. My r is half, right? Because remember, the formula is a times r to the n minus 1. So it's 3 times half to the n minus 1. So a sub 1 is 3. My r value is half. Now, since the absolute value of half is less than 1, right, so that checks out because half is less than 1, then I can use a formula. So s is equal to 3 over 1 minus half. Okay? 1 minus half, that's going to be a half. So s is equal to 3 divided by a half, which is 6. Very easy problems. You just got to know what you're looking for, what the formula is, but otherwise it's very straightforward, not tricky at all. You just got to know your formulas, right? Which is why you guys have 2 pages of notes you can work on front and back. Put the stuff in there that you need. So the next one is the same exact type of question. Again, I'll highlight the word infinite. If it doesn't say the word infinite, then the formula is different, right? So this one again is going to be a sub 1 over 1 minus r, as long as the absolute value of r is less than 1. So I'm just kind of putting that there for you, but same formula as before. We'll list our parts. A sub 1 is half. R is 3 over 2. Is it true that the absolute value of 3 over 2 is less than 1? No, it's not. So I'm just going to write no sum. Okay? And that's it. That one's done. Now, if it did work, then I plug it in and find the sum for it. Okay? Calculator is helpful because usually you end up with fractions whenever you actually do have to calculate these things. But, just use a calculator and it should be good. All right. Any questions on these two? Because from here we shift gears to possibilities, not any more of these geometric series. All right. So 47. Find the number of possible outcomes. It says a spinner can land on green, blue, red, or black. You spin it 3 times. So that means that there are 3 events. The first spin, the second spin, and the third spin. Notice they didn't mention anything about like the same color can't be repeated or anything like that. That means you can get 4 greens, 4 blues, 4 reds, 4 blacks, or maybe 2 greens and 2 reds, maybe 2 greens, a red and a blue, right? You can get the same color. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors, right? Green, blue, red, or black. So the first time you spin it, there are 4 possibilities. The next time you spin it, you still have 4 possibilities because they didn't say you couldn't choose the same color. Okay, and then the last time is also 4 possibilities. Now, if they would have said you're spinning it, but you can't get the same color, then it would have been what? 4 at first, and then 3, and then 2, right? Because you start to eliminate colors. You're like, okay, it can't be blue, so you have 4. So I got blue, so I can't use it again. Then I got black, so I can't use that again, right? So it'll be like a countdown. But this comes out to 64, and we're done. Okay? So again, how did I know there's 3 events? Because they said I'm doing this 3 times. Okay? Sometimes people get mixed up and they're thinking like the colors are the events. No, the colors are the choices. The number of times you do it is the events. So number 48 says, is this a permutation or combination? How many possible outcomes? So we're talking about setting up a combination of a 4-digit lock. The numbers you need to use are 1, 3, 4, and 9. Now notice, I have to use 1, 3, 4, and 9. I have to use all 4 of them. Okay? So once I use 9, can I use it again? No. Well, if I use it again, then I'm not going to use either 1, 3, or 4. Again, I need to use all 4 numbers. So I can't repeat any of these. Okay? So it's a 4-digit combination. So I'm going to have to pick 4 numbers. So those are my 4 events. The first slot has 4 options. Right? It can be a 1, 3, 4, or a 9. But once I pick one of those numbers, excuse me, once I pick one of those numbers, then I only have 3 options left. And then once I pick one of those numbers, I only have 2 options left. And then the last number will be only 1 option. Right? Because I got to use all 4. I cannot repeat them. So 4 times 3 times 2, that's 12 times 2, that's 24. So this, by the way, is a permutation. Order does matter in a sense because once you pick one number, you cannot use it again, right? So there's that answer for number 48. Now, if I could repeat, then it would be 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, if it was okay, if they said like, here are the 4 options you have, but you don't have to use all 4 numbers. Well, then it could have been like 1, 1, 1, 1, or 3, 3, 3, 3, or 3, 3, 4, 4, right? Repetitions, that would have come out to a different answer. But I got to use those 4 numbers. And they do tell me that right here. Need to, right? Need to use. Okay, how many possible outcomes? A student body of 60 wants to elect a president, vice president, and secretary. So they're picking 3 people. Okay, and the order in which they're picking them is going to make you a president, a vice president, or a secretary. So does that matter or not matter? It matters, right? So this is going to be a permutation. 60 picking 3 of them. So I'm going to have to use a calculator here because I can't do that in my head. I can write the formula out for you, but it's 60 times 59 times 58. But I can't do that in my head. So let's see, 60 permute 3. So I just put, whoops, that's a terrible box. So 6, this is what I press, 6, 0. Then I press shift and times. And then I press 3. Okay, and then you press equals. All right, that's all I did on the calculator. So the answer came out to 205,320. So 205,320. That's how many possible ways that can be done. All right, we got 50 to 55 to go. And now we hit trig. So there's a couple things I have to remind you guys about trigonometry. First off, the definitions of sine, cosine, and tangent. So sine theta, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine theta, adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent theta, opposite over adjacent. And then one more thing for you guys to know is the Pythagorean theorem, because you might need to figure out the value of one of the sides. So you need that equation as well. Remember, in the Pythagorean theorem, part C is your hypotenuse, the longest side. Okay? A and B can be either of the 2 legs, the shorter legs, but C has to be the longest leg, the hypotenuse. So, for number 50, it says, find the value of the trig function. This trig function right there. So according to definition, tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. Now, according to this theta down bottom left corner of the triangle, this side is my opposite side. That's the side that's not touching the arc, this arc right here. If the arc touches it, it cannot be the opposite side. So notice how that side does not touch the arc. So that's the opposite. The longest side is 5. This is going to be my hypotenuse. Now, if you're wondering, how the heck do you know that's the longest side? There's another side that doesn't have a value. Well, remember, by definition, the hypotenuse is the side opposite of the 90-degree angle. Right? So you see the little 90-degree angle right here. Just go straight across. That's going to be your hypotenuse. Okay? So in order to do this problem, I need to know what my adjacent side is, but notice it doesn't have anything there. Okay, so I got to figure it out. All right, so let's use my formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'll let a stand for adjacent, so I'll leave it a squared plus b squared, that's 4 squared, and c squared, that's 5 squared. So if we just go ahead and start solving this, so a squared is plus 16 is equal to 25. I'll subtract 16 on both sides. So it's going to give me a squared equals to 9. That means a must be 3. Okay, that side right here is a 3. That's not my answer. It's just the side value. So now I can write my answer out though. Tangent of theta is opposite, which is 4, over adjacent, which is 3, and that's my answer. Okay, all they want you to do is give them the ratio. Okay, give them the ratio that represents tangent of theta. So you're looking for the value of the opposite, you're looking for the value of the adjacent. If one of those is missing, you guys have to figure it out. And the way you're going to figure it out is using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? The Pythagorean theorem will give you an answer. Once you find that answer, put it on your triangle, and then from there, write out your definition for tangent. Okay? Any questions on this one? All right. So 51, find the value of that trig function, sine of theta. Now remember, sine of theta, by definition, is opposite over hypotenuse. Let me label my sides. Let's see what we got. So, here's my arc. That means that 5 is opposite. This is hypotenuse right here. That's the longest side. And again, I know that because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. That means this has to be the adjacent side. Now, if I need sine, I need opposite and hypotenuse. I have opposite, but I don't have hypotenuse. Okay? So I got to figure out the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use the formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And in this case, I'm solving for c, because the hypotenuse is always the c value. So let me write down the opposite and adjacent part. So I'll just put 5 squared plus square root of 30 squared is equal to c squared. Okay, 5 squared is 25, plus square root of 30 squared is 30. That's equal to c squared. So that's 55 is equal to c squared. So I take the square root of both sides, and I get the square root of 55 is equal to c. So now I know that this is the square root of 55. I'm going to kind of circle it just to make sure I see it. Okay? So now let me fill out the actual problem. Sine of theta equals to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of theta is equal to 5 over the square root of 55. Now that's a good answer, but most likely on your final exam they're not going to want that. So all you have to do is just put it in your calculator, 5 divided by square root of 55, and it should give you square root of 55 over 11. Okay, again, you can just type in 5 divided by square root of 55. It will fix it for you. If it gives you a decimal, you let me know, because that means that somebody's messed around with the settings and it's not giving it to you the way it's supposed to. I'll try to see if before final exams I can clear out all the memories and stuff, but I can't guarantee that someone who used it on another day messed with it in between when I reset it to when you get it. So if it's misbehaving, just let me know. I can easily fix that. Or maybe on the board I'll put like clear your memory, and I'll put the button presses so you guys can do that yourselves, just to make sure that everything's working normal. Questions on this problem here? We did triangles like about a month ago, so if it seems like kind of familiar, but still not too familiar, it's been a little while. All right, number 52, find the measure of the side. So this time I'm trying to figure out the value of x, and notice this time I gave you the angle, but I didn't give you the side, right? Before, like, we just knew like theta, right? We didn't know what the angle was, but now I'm telling you the angle's 30. So I'm going to label the parts that they gave me. So this is my angle right here, okay? That's theta. That makes this the opposite, and this is the adjacent. The hypotenuse is the other side, but that has nothing on it. I don't want to even worry about it, okay? So what trig function deals with opposite and adjacent? Tangent. So I'm going to write this. Tangent theta. Let me just write it out. Opposite over adjacent. So here we go. I'm going to fill it in. Tangent of 30 degrees is equal to opposite x over adjacent, which is 10. So to solve for x, all I'm going to do is multiply by 10 to the other side. Okay, I'm just going to multiply it. So 10 tangent of 30 degrees is x. And then at this point, I'm going to use a calculator. 10 tangent of 30 is equal to, now it gives it to me like this, 10 square root of 3 over 3. And if that's the option on the test, then great. But if it's not, if it's supposed to be a decimal, then remember, you press the SD button, right? The number that just kind of swings it back and forth. So it comes out to approximately 5.774. So both of these are good answers, just depending on what the exam has. So, I mean, this isn't a tough question, but you do need to remember your definitions, right? So again, thank goodness you guys have 2 pages of notes where you guys can write them all down. Okay? And write examples if you need. Let's go to 53, and then I'll check to see if you guys have any questions. And then after that, we got 2 more that are related. The last 2 are inverse problems. So 53. I have an angle of 37.2 degrees. I have an opposite side, and I have a hypotenuse. The adjacent side is blank, so I'm not going to label it. Okay? So what gives me an opposite and hypotenuse? That's the sine, right? Yeah, so sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. I do have my angle of 37.2, so sine of 37.2 degrees is equal to opposite, so that's 2 over x. Now this one, people consider the hard ones because the variable is on the bottom, so I need to get the variable by itself, but on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the variable over here by multiplying it, okay? I'm going to multiply it. So that's going to be x times sine of 37.2 degrees is equal to 2. Now that 37.2 degrees, I'm going to divide that over, because remember, that's just a number, right? Like 5. If it was like 5x, you would divide both sides by 5, right? Well, sine of 37.2 is just a number. I think it's 0.6, okay? So I'm just going to divide it on both sides. So I get x equal to 2 over sine of 37.2 degrees. And now let my calculator do the work. So 2 divided by sine of 37.2 is equal to 3.308. Again, I'm not sure how much they're going to want you to round. I'm just, in calculus, we always go 3 numbers after the decimal, so kind of used to that. But I mean, you could have put 3.31 or 3.3, depending on the options you guys get. Any questions up to now from 45 to 53? Anything you want me to maybe revisit, anything like that? Because we got 2 more and then we're done. All right. So this one says find the measure of each angle. So this time you got to solve for theta. Okay? You're solving for theta. Now here's my arc, okay? Just so we can see it. So the 2 sides that they gave me are the hypotenuse, okay? Because that's opposite the 90. And then they gave me the adjacent side. Remember, the opposite side is the side that does not touch that little red arc that I drew, right? And notice how the side way up the top, that one's not touching the red arc. There's only 2 lines that touch it, okay? The one that's not touching it, that's your opposite. I'm not going to label it because then it just confuses me, right? I see adjacent hypotenuse. Which trig function do I use? Cosine. Okay, so cosine theta is A over H. Okay? Now, I don't know what theta is, not yet, but I know that adjacent is 12 and hypotenuse is 13. And to solve for angles, we use the inverse function. In other words, we get that cosine and we throw it to the other side. But when you do that, you got to use this notation. And remember, on your calculators, you'll be pressing shift cosine. Okay? So on your calculators, you'll be pressing the shift function. So I'm going to put it right here, kind of like I did the last time. You're going to press shift, then cosine. That's going to give you cosine inverse. Okay? And then it should give you, at least I think so. Let me check. Shift cosine. Yeah. So it automatically throws a parenthesis in front. Okay? So you can press like your fraction button if you want. The one that looks like this. And then put 12. And then I guess you press down over 13. And then hit equals. Okay? So, and that's going to give you your answer. So let me go ahead and do that. 12 divided by 13. And it's 22.619. I'll just do 22.6. So theta is 22.6 degrees. These are pretty easy problems. The hardest part is remembering how to input, right? If you remember how to put it in right, they're usually pretty easy. You're not having to do anything in particular that's like difficult. It's just they're giving you everything you need on the problem. Just make sure you know how to write it out and solve for the correct inverse function. So last one, and then if you guys have any questions, let me know. If not, then we're done with the review. So find the measure of each angle, of the angle given. So we got theta right there. So again, theta, here's the arc for theta. So notice 3 is my opposite side because that's not touching the arc. And 4 would be my adjacent side because the hypotenuse is up on top and that doesn't have any information. So opposite and adjacent is which trig function? Tangent, thank you. So tangent theta is O over A. Tangent of theta is O is 3, A is 4. Okay. So now I'm going to solve for theta. That means I get to get the tangent function and throw it over to the other side. So you got to do tangent inverse of 3 over 4. So in this case, you'll press shift tangent. That'll bring out the tangent inverse. And then put 3 over 4 and hit enter. So let me press shift tangent 3 over 4. That's 36.9. So theta is 36.9 degrees. And that's it. And those are all 55 type problems you're going to be seeing on your final exam.